16. Reuben. I will never be a babysitter. Not even for Knox and Kobe. Not a chance. If I've learned anything, it's that I need to stay out of the way and keep my mouth shut so no one gets hurt. Or worse.
17. There's a note on the kitchen counter the next morning in Dad's loopy handwriting. Gabe, sorry I'll miss breakfast. Got called in for Rosalie. This might be it. I know she's your favorite. That makes sense. You're a lot alike. She's the real deal, Gabe. And you're both funny as hell. See you tomorrow for corn pops. Dad. My eyes are a little watery. Because even though I never met Rosalie, she really was my favorite. And from the way Dad describes it, I'm not the only one who felt that way. She was kind and open to everyone. She was funny. And even though her liver was sick, Dad said there wasn't one thing wrong with that heart of hers. I guess that's what being the real deal is. Mom comes in and puts her arm around my shoulders. He shouldn't have said H-E-L-L, she says. He didn't, I say. He wrote it. Mom laughs. See? He's right, I say. I am funny as... Mom squeezes my shoulder hard like, don't you dare. But she's still kind of laughing. It makes me think of Ray and how she said H to her English teacher. But I bet if I explained why, Mom would agree it was an appropriate word for the occasion, just like Ray said. I know it's kind of weird, I say. But I wish I could say something to Rosalie. You can, Mom says. Just say it. Point yourself in the direction of the hospital. Here, like this. She rotates my shoulders to the backyard. And then, say it. She goes to put some bread in the toaster, leaving me facing out the glass-paned back door. It's not like she'll be able to hear me, I say. Mom pulls the lever down for the toaster until it clicks and says, Well, there's more than one way to listen. I'm trying not to feel awkward when I see Reuben in Ms. Levitt's class, but it's not working. I can't stop thinking about how we were in his house yesterday, and I can't help wondering what they had for dinner, and if they watch TV later, or if he helps tuck his brothers in at night. I'm trying not to look at him. But it's hard to tell your brain to not do something because then that's the only thing you can think about doing. So I sneak a quick peek during moment of meditation. He's bent over his desk, drawing on that jagged piece of bulletin board paper. I can see his hands making quick pencil lines. He's drawing another person, but I can't see who it is. And it makes me think of the listener beneath Knox and Kobe's scribble on their refrigerator. And then I feel awkward all over again that I know what Reuben's refrigerator looks like. Next to him, Ray is working on her letter. And it's long. She reaches the bottom of the page and turns it over to keep going. And I can tell from the little in-between smile on her face that she likes what she's writing. I wish she had a thought bubble above her head so I could know what she's thinking. Oliver is sneaking his phone in his lap again, and I'm drawing a stick figure comic of myself standing and facing out the glass door to my backyard. I draw a thought bubble up from my head and write, Rosalie, I'll be the real deal too. Because even though I didn't say anything out loud when I turned in the direction of the hospital this morning, Mom says there's more than one way to listen. And maybe Rosalie can feel my message somehow. Ms. Levitt lets us know that it's time to work on our projects, and reminds us that they're due in a week. We take out our folder, and I start touching up the colors on one frame of our Gabever comic, while Oliver is sketching out the next scene. We have a good system, working like this. And it's a good thing that I'm a righty and Oliver's a lefty, because we can sit shoulder to shoulder over the same comic and still have elbow room. I'm making my Crocs bright green, like they were in pre-K. And I'm coloring my hair a shade lighter than Oliver's. My smile is wide in this picture, which makes my dimples more obvious. I look like I'm really free, flying up and up with Oliver there, keeping me balanced. I dot dark brown freckles on Oliver's face, and realize that in the drawing, he's not smiling. and his eyes are looking off toward the parking lot. I check my notebook for what we decided on the speech balloons. I'm supposed to be saying, "Whee!" and he's supposed to be saying, "That's it, you've got it now." But his face in the drawing isn't saying that. "You kind of look sad in this one," I say. Oliver just shrugs and says, "I'll check it out after." He's working on the next frame, where this time he's up in the air on the teeter-totter and I'm down. Principal Tacker's voice crackles through the loudspeaker, calling Ray to her office. Ray rolls her eyes, packs her book bag, and heads toward the door, mumbling, "This better be about me going back to 7th grade." We continue working, and then halfway through class, Ms. Levitt calls for our attention and says she wants us to partner with another person or group for a peer conference. A peer conference is when you team up and share your work. There's a whole chart on the wall about peer conferences and how to be a good sharer, a good listener, and the kinds of questions you can ask to help your peers with their projects. Chaz turns to Warren, and Cass takes her guitar to Missy and Tanya's table. Oliver looks back at Saunders, but he's already sliding his chair to Jolene's table. And Andre and Corey are sitting together on the rug near the library. Ruben's just sitting there, watching the door, and I am too, hoping that Ray will barge in any second and be his partner. Ms. Levitt is beginning her countdown, and when she gets to 0, we'll have to start our peer conferences. 5, she says. I know if Ruben gets up to search for a partner, someone might call him Recon Ruben or Rude Ruben, and I'm surprised that Ms. Levitt can't see that, because she's looking back and gesturing for him to go ahead and try to find a group to sit in on. 4, 3, she says. Ruben rolls his eyes and keeps drawing, and Ms. Levitt makes her way to his table. Maybe she'll kneel down next to him and say it's okay, that he doesn't have to join a conference. But then Chaz will say something about him getting out of it. 2. Then I do a little cough to get Ruben's attention and wave him over. "What are you doing?" Oliver whispers. "I don't know," I say. Ruben sighs and folds his paper and walks with it to our table. I point to the extra chair across from us. "You can peer conference here," I say. "We're making a comic." I think I catch him smile a little, and he sits down. Oliver goes back to sketching, and I point to my notebook page and tell Ruben how I'm working on the speech balloons for this first scene. "This is a true story," I tell him, "about how Oliver and I met and became friends." He looks at the scene and sees the playground, then pushes his chair back an inch like he's on the real playground and wishes he could press into the bricks. "This is our pre-K teacher, Ms. Carey," I say, pointing to the comic. "And this is my mom." Then I draw Ms. Carey a speech balloon and write, "Feel free to take Gabe. I can wait with Oliver for his mom." Then I draw my mom's speech balloon and write, "It's okay. What's a teeter without a totter?" Ruben smiles at that line, and I say, "My mom really said that. She's cool sometimes." He laughs and makes that sign for me too, moving his hand between us with his thumb and pinky out. We're supposed to use that in class when we agree with someone. I laugh a little because I know his mom, and she does seem pretty cool. And when we're smiling like this, I finally get the guts to ask, "What are you doing for your project?" And I point to the folded bulletin board paper. He raises his eyebrows and leans over his paper, like he's not ready to share anything about it. Then Ms. Levitt comes by and puts her hands on the backs of our chairs and says, "Good to see you all working together. If you'd like to move your seat here, Ruben, I'm sure that would be fine with Gabe and Oliver." When she leaves, Ruben jots a note on the corner of his notebook, rips it off, and slides it over to me. She thinks if I sit with people, I'll make friends. It doesn't work. Then I look at Oliver and shrug, and I write, "It might." Ruben shakes his head, and he still doesn't unfold his drawing to share. I put the note in my book bag. So we just continue on our project, and Ruben watches as Oliver rotates the comic frame and begins drawing the fence around the playground. I start sketching a stick figures draft in my notebook of the next scene. It's the one where we're going to get thrown from the teeter-totter, and when we collide in midair, The school nurse will rush out to save us the only way she can. Stitch us together into Gabever. Reuben pushes his chair back even farther. Then he nods and goes back to his table. And I'm not sure why. Because I thought he liked our comic, and I even kind of liked talking to him about it. But he opens his own drawing and gets back to work. Ray comes back in and announces that Principal Tacker is now going to be checking the progress of her letters, and Ms. Levitt puts her hand on Ray's shoulder and says, "Think of it as a not-so-peer conference." That makes everyone laugh. On the way to math, Chaz catches us in the hall and says, "Ms. Levitt must have heard you guys are babysitters. How much is she paying you to watch Reuben in class?" He smacks Oliver and me across the backs like we're in on some big joke, and at first I kind of laugh along. But the cool points turn to gobbledygook in my guts, and I'm trying to say, no, that's not what it's like. But then Chaz continues, "Or is he joining your group or something?" Chaz's laughs are loud, and now Jolene and Jade are giggling about us being babysitters, and before I know it, Oliver's responding instead. "He's not in our group now," he says. "That would be kind of weird." Then he tightens the straps of his book bag before entering Ms. Meyer's room. And I'm remembering what one of the twins said. And so before we go in, I say it to Oliver. "Not weird," I say. "Reuben." Oliver looks at me and says, "I just meant that it would be weird for him to work on our friendship project. It's about you and me." And I guess that sort of makes sense. And it feels good that Oliver just wants me as his best friend. But I still feel gobbledygooky. So I try to figure out which direction the hospital's in. So I know which way to point my shoulders to tell Rosalie that being the real deal is hard. But I don't know which way it is. And I don't have a compass.
18. Reuben. They think I can't hear them making fun. Or laughing along.
19. At the end of the day, I ask Oliver if he wants to work on Gabever after our clubs. I could show you the sketch I have for the big collision scene, and we could try to figure out what crime he's going to solve. Oliver grabs his sports club bag out of his locker. "I wish," he says, "but I have to help my mom with something." He slings his bag over his shoulder and closes his locker. "Text me if you get a good idea, though." He wiggles his cell phone in front of his chest. "Take that, Taker," I say a little too loudly. Principal Tacker is just down the hall, and she clears her throat. Oliver drops his phone down his shirt and crosses his arms over his belly to stop it from falling out of the bottom. "Mr. Mackey," she says, and everyone in the hall turns and stares. "Don't think I can't hear you." Then she continues on down the hall. "That was a close one," Oliver says, sliding his phone out from the bottom of his shirt. I let out a big breath and say, "Yeah." But really, I'm wondering if Principal Tacker has been hearing us call her Taker all year. I thought we'd been keeping it behind her back and beneath our breath, but I guess whispers are never quiet enough. And even when you think people aren't listening, they are. Mr. Jasper is in the gazebo when I get there, and the day packs are lined up on the bench. His own pack is already on his back, and there's a big Y-shaped stick tied to the outside of it. It's the wrong shape for a walking stick, and too short. And I'm thinking maybe he's just the kind of nature guy that has to carry a stick with him wherever he goes. Either that, or it fell from a tree and got stuck on the bungee straps of his pack, and he's just so woodsy that he hasn't even noticed. Miss Neely is setting up cones on the soccer field, and the sports club kids are circled around and warming up with jumping jacks. The elementary after-school clubs are gathering near the playground, and Vera and Ray are making their way across the field from the school. As they get closer, I hear Ray say, "You've got to be kidding me. Really, tell me you're kidding." My eyes must be asking a question, because Ray answers, Vera just told me that our English teacher boxed up all the graphic novels for the rest of the year to... Ray makes quotes in the air with her fingers. Encourage more reading across other genres. What? I say. Graphic novel isn't even a genre. It's a format. And who takes books away to encourage more reading? Exactly, Vera and Ray say at the same time. Vera shakes her head and says, and I had just finished Real Friends, and now I can't get the next two in the series. This deserves more bad words, Ray says. Mr. Jasper is checking to make sure everything is in the day packs. Then he looks up. Okay, he says. Are you all ready to search for something even better than Tin Bin? What's better than Tin Bin? Vera says. And they both unzip a pack and take out the map. I don't know, Ray says. But we're going to find it right there. She taps her finger on the red dot on the map. It better be our box of graphic novels. That makes us laugh, and Mr. Jasper hands me the last day pack. Ready to make a path? I nod and open the pack, and remember what Vera and Ray taught me about laying my compass flat and turning my body to orient the map to the land. It's this way, I say, and point to the woods behind the basketball court. Vera gives me a high five, and we all walk around the court, watching the needles on our compasses waver. Before we duck into the woods, I look over towards Sports Club and see Oliver doing some squat jump exercises, and on his next jump up, he shouts, Don't get lost, Gabe! I wave my compass at him and smile back. Don't pull a muscle! Mr. Jasper comes into the woods with us today, but we lead. Ray first, with her compass in one hand and map in the other. Then Vera, then me. I hold my compass and map just like they do, and squint through the branches and then back down at the map, trying to figure out where we are and where we're going. Ray squats by a huge boulder and looks out through the trees, then points to the lines on her map. See here? The land rises. I saw the lines on the maps last time, but I didn't realize what they meant. I follow her finger over the lines on the map, and then I kneel down beside her and look out to see a little hill sloping in front of us. I see it, I say. Vera holds out the compass and says, We want to be going northwest right over the top of that. Then she says, Why don't you lead for a little bit, Gabe? We'll follow you. That's okay, I say. I still don't know what all the lines... Ray puts her hand on my shoulder. Just give it a try. We'll be here to guide you back if you go astray. I look at Mr. Jasper, and he nods. I still don't have hiking boots, but I wore taller socks today. So I pull them up to my calves, and then I take a few steps past Ray and Vera and the huge boulder and look out into the woods. I check the needle on my compass and try to keep it on northwest as I walk toward the hill. Sticks snap beneath my sneakers, and my shirt catches on a branch sticking out from a tree. I unhook it and try to remember what Mr. Jasper said on Monday about finding yourself in a place where everything looks familiar, and it's hard to tell anything apart. He's right. Every direction I turn looks the same. Tall trees. But I fix my eyes on the ground and just keep on going. After a minute, Vera says, Gabe. I look back. Check your compass. The needle has moved. Now it's hovering over west. Weird, I say. It felt like I was going straight. Ray nods. It's easy to get pulled off course, she says. It just takes one tiny step, then another. You don't even realize you're doing it. I hold out my compass and turn my body until the needle slides back to northwest. Then Mr. Jasper taps me under the chin. Keep that head up, he says. And look 3 steps out in front of you. That's how you plan your path. He points to the ground 3 steps in front of me, slightly up the hill. You have to know where you're going to plant your foot before you get there. I see dirt and leaves and a thick root pushing up out of the ground. I decide I'll step on the flat ground right before that root, then on the flat ground right after. "And when things go wrong?" Mr. Jasper asks, quizzing the girls.
"Stop and accept the fact that you don't know where you are,"
Ray says.
"And backtrack to the last place you were sure about,"
Vera adds. I look back down the hill to the boulder where I took the lead. "There," I say. "You're lucky your anchor point is still in sight. Now correct your path and look ahead," Mr. Jasper says. He points northwest into the trees, and I keep my eyes up the hill as I hike, planning my trail 3 steps ahead until we reach what feels like the top of the hill, and I stop.
"We're right here,"
Ray says, and points to a line on my map.
"Top of the hill."
Then she runs her finger northwest across the lines and numbers on my map and toward the red dot.
"Down we go."
She takes the lead this time, and Mr. Jasper reminds me not to just follow her footsteps. "Keep looking ahead," he says, "and checking your map and compass." After a couple of minutes, we get to the bottom of the hill, and we all check our compasses and hold them over the maps.
"We need to walk more north now,"
Vera says, and takes the lead.
"We should be close."
After a minute, she stops. "Are we there?" I ask.
"I don't know," she says, "but it smells different right here."
Mr. Jasper smiles.
"And it sounds different too,"
Ray adds.
"Not so dry and crunchy."
"Good observations," Mr. Jasper says. Now I'm back to thinking that Nature Club is some kind of dandelion puff club, because they're taking deep breaths and not moving a muscle. "Check this out," Mr. Jasper says. He squats down and runs his finger through the mud like it's chocolate frosting, holding it up for us to see.
"Mud,"
Vera says. "Duh," I'm thinking. "And animal tracks." He points his muddy finger to prints on the ground. "And scat." "What's scat?" I ask.
"Animal poop,"
Ray says, and it immediately sends giggles up from my belly because I'm thinking about Oliver and dirty diapers and guano. Then, before I know it, Mr. Jasper pulls the Y-shaped stick from his pack and grips each of the sides in an underhanded fist with the bottom of the Y slightly tipped and pointing out like an airplane taking off.
"What are you doing?"
Vera asks. "I've seen this on TV," Ray says. Mr. Jasper starts walking, quietly, back and forth across the dirt and mud. He ducks beneath branches full of green leaves and along low-lying shrubs. He holds the Y steady out over the land the whole time, and then he takes another step, and the stick, still tight between his fists, points down to a spot on the ground like it's found an answer. "Here," he says. Then he kneels down and begins digging a wide circle, clearing away leaves and rocks. He digs and digs a little bowl into the earth, and right before my eyes, water starts bubbling out of the ground, like someone buried a fountain in there, and it's filling up the bowl.
"A spring,"
Vera says.
"This is awesome,"
says Ray. "Wait," I say. "Did that stick just find water?" Mr. Jasper laughs. "Hotly debated," he says. "Some say water dowsing is luck and baloney, but some say there's a little bit of energy in water that we humans can detect, and that whether it's the water pulling the stick down or our own sense deep in our guts pushing the stick toward water, we'll never really know." Mr. Jasper pats the Y. "But this stick has found me water before, so I say there's something to it." It makes me think about Ms. Levitt and her gobbledygook feelings, and how if Mr. Jasper is right, we humans carry a lot in our guts. Mr. Jasper hands us little paper cups that he brought from his science lab and shows us how to dig around the bubbling water and fill our cup. And I'm not even upset that we didn't find a tin bin full of candy, because this water tastes so good. Maybe because we found it ourselves, Or maybe because I was expecting it to taste all muddy and mossy, and instead, it tastes clean and clear. On our way back to school, we pause on the top of the hill and look back over the valley toward where we found the spring. See how lush it is? How green? There are clues everywhere, he says. The earth is telling us all we need to know. We just have to listen. When we get back to the gazebo, I look for Oliver so I can tell him that we found scat in the woods, and that Mr. Jasper and his Y-shaped stick have some kind of sixth sense. But most of the sports club kids have left, and Oliver's bike is gone from the rack. I think maybe the water from that spring had special energy boosters or something, because I decide I'm going to ride fast to Oliver Street, even though it's kind of far and mostly uphill. But I want to tell him how maybe I can find magic water bubbling up from the earth when we go on the Appalachian Trail this summer, and how we need to start searching for Y-shaped sticks to fasten to our packs. It's getting cold, and I try to pull my sweatshirt sleeves down over my hands as I ride. I pedal as fast as I can right past the bookstore, and I'm hoping Mom's not looking out the window at that exact moment. And I hope that spring water really did give me super speed boosters, so I'm not too late when I ride back to meet her and have to hear a whole speech about how I'm not acting responsibly. I stand up on my pedals until my legs burn, and now I'm hot and pushing the sleeves of my sweatshirt up past my elbows. And when I get to the top of the hill and turn onto his street, I can see him riding, but he's far ahead, and I'm too winded to shout. When he gets to his yard, he drops his bike and picks up the ball in the driveway. And when I get closer, I see something I haven't seen before, because I haven't been to Oliver's house forever. At first, I think it's one of those political yard signs stuck in the grass. But it's not. It's not that kind of sign at all. It's a sign that says, "For sale," with a picture of that lady, Ms. Meyer's friend from math class, the real estate agent. I slow down and stop so Oliver can't see me, and pull my bike over towards the shrubs on the other side of the street. And when he starts dribbling, I pull my whole bike and my whole self into the bushes, like we're 6 and playing hide-and-go-seek. The branches are scratching up my arms, and one goes right up my nose, and I'm not even sure why I'm hiding. I just watch. I watch as he dribbles the ball a couple of times and starts shooting, basket after basket, on the old hoop where his dad used to practice when we were little. My brain is telling my body to move, to drag my bike out from these shrubs and go ask my friend what's going on. And I keep saying I will, after the next shot. After the next basket, I'll walk over there and put my hands out and ask him to pass me the ball, and ask him if he's really moving, and where, and why he didn't tell me. And then I'll shoot a terrible air ball and make him laugh and say that we'll be best friends forever, no matter what. But I just keep watching him through the branches. He misses the next shot, and when he catches the rebound, he draws his arm behind his head and hurls the ball 100 miles per hour at the backboard. It hits with a bam, and he lets it fly back through the air and roll into the yard. Then I see his shoulders kind of collapse a little, and he sniffs and wipes his face with his sweatshirt. I wonder for a minute if this is what Reuben is doing at recess. Really watching us, not just looking around, but studying our faces and feeling what we're feeling. Not like a spy, but like a regular kid who is good at listening. Like how Vera and Ray could smell and hear the change in the woods today, and how Mr. Jasper can feel the energy of the water in the earth. Because I can hear Oliver's sadness right now, and I know I should roll out of this shrub and go to him. Then my phone vibrates in my pocket, and I'm sure my mom has called out a search team, and soon they'll find me here in the bushes across the street from my best friend's house, with a big thought bubble floating up from my head, wondering what is going on and how I can help. Oliver wipes his eyes with the sleeves of his sweatshirt again and starts into his garage. And even though I want to call out to him, I just watch him scoop up his book bag, open his door, and close it behind him. And I know what Ray would call me. A baby. And she'd be right.